And I want people to get in politics because we should be there. It is for us. It's not for the higher echelon people. It's not for the generals. I'm sure there'll be a general there somewhere, but it's not made for them. It's made for the House of Representatives. Is about people who represent the people, and we need normal people in there. Like, I got tattoos down my arm, right? You don't see that in politics. That apparently it's scary to look like this. Garbage, mate. Like, that we need to change how we do business in politics, not just here but around the world, and stop the $5,000 suit wearing people thinking that they're representing everyone. We need normal people in there who make normal decisions based on the people they represent.
My name is Johnny Ball, and I'm the founder of CampaignForce, a not-for-profit that inspires, trains, and coaches the armed forces community to stand up and serve again. I've served on the front line of military operations and in civilian life, the front line of UK politics. This Veterans in Politics podcast is a set of interviews brought to you by CampaignForce and sets out to explore how the military community can help make our politics a better place. I lean into my little black book of contacts and sit down with individuals from across the world of politics, sharing secrets, giving tips and advice, and inspiring the next generation. We are CampaignForce. This is the Veterans in Politics podcast. Let's introduce you to our guest.
We welcome our first Australian veteran in politics, Phillip Thompson OAM MP. Phil is the baby of the house as Australia's youngest MP. He is a veteran of operations in East Timor and Afghanistan, where he was badly injured in an explosion. He's an impressive guy with a fresh approach on how to do politics. Our host Johnny really bonded with him, and it's clear in this episode that a shared sense of service and values is a powerful commonality that links veterans from two different countries. Thanks to Job Oppo for their support in this episode. It's time for you to meet our guest.
Phil Thompson, MP, our first Australian guest. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's an absolute honour and absolute privilege to have you. I understand that you are, in fact, the baby of the Australian Parliament. Is that right? The youngest?
I am, mate. I'm 33. So I'm the youngest in the House of Representatives. So I'm the get the title of baby of the house.
I was going to say,
I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest, mate.
I know, so it's a weird term, but we exactly have the same title here in the UK too. And you are in Parliament, and you've described yourself in the past as that if you can get into Parliament, anyone can, and that you've said that you're a bit of a rat bag in terms of your past. So, I mean, can you tell us a little bit about you and about your journey in getting into Parliament?
Sure. I'm from a low socioeconomic background. I grew up in public housing, single mum, raising three kids, who's an absolute she's an all-star. Left school very early, young, was concreting, laying blocks, decided I wanted to do something else. Saw an ad on TV, met someone who was former New Zealand Army, and then I applied, and they said, mate, you don't have the education. So I put myself through night school, got to our basic level of education, joined the military, infantry soldier, moved about 2 hours flight north and about 13 hours drive north, and was posted to the First Battalion, Royal Australian Regiment, as a young private soldier. Served in East Timor and in Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, I was blown up by an IED, rendered me with a traumatic brain injury, still can't hear in my right ear, and then I was diagnosed with PTSD, went on the whole turbulent roller coaster of poor mental health and mental illness, punched out the other side with my best friend and now wife, Jenna. She kind of, pulled me in a line, and some good mates giving me a good kick in the bum. And, looked around Townsville, where I'm from, and went, we're stagnant. We're going backwards. I don't see a future for young people here. High crime, high electricity prices, high everything. We're losing everyone at the southeast corner. So when I'll go talk to the current member, who was a member of the Labor Party, they scoffed at me, laughed at me, because I was too young. What would you know? And then I kind of got a tap on the shoulder from the party that I was in, which is the Liberal National Party. the centre-right political party in Australia, and put my hand up and got into it, mate, and got into the fight.
Wow. So you literally came from no political background at all, didn't know, you just went for it.
Yeah, I was a member of the party, but I wasn't overly active. I'd help out in little tiny bits. Just always politically viewed that way. I got tapped on the shoulder after I won an award, which was the Queensland Young Australian of the Year for helping people with mental illness and suicide prevention, more tailored towards veterans. And decide, you know what, you sit here and complain and throw pebbles, or jump in front and go, this is what we're going to do, get in the fight. And, you know, I kick everyone in the shins, mate, include my own side of politics, if I want our fair share for the North.
Yeah, and you do it with great passion as well. I recently watched a speech where you spoke directly to a mother of someone that had completed suicide, and it was a highly emotional, and it was also as emotional as it was also hugely refreshing to see someone in politics, in public, be so passionate and so authentic, and so it was really touching, mate. So thank you for.
I appreciate that. I take any suicide and poor mental health and the treatment from when I got into politics as personal. I take it as my responsibility, and when people have died by suicide when I've been a member of parliament, I take it as a failure, and a failure of mine, the governments, and any person who says they're in politics, regardless if you're on the opposition or not. We shouldn't be allowing our most bravest, our men and women who put on the uniform every day in service to our nations, who protect our rights, our sovereignty, put themselves in harm's way to be taking their life and dying by suicide. So, you know, mate, it's a highly emotive and very emotional thing for me, and more so for the many families and the people that are intimately affected by it.
No, definitely. Well, it completely connected to me. So thank you. And it's clear that it really fires you up. I can see that passion, that fire in your belly too. And it's something I've seen in members of parliament here in the UK, particularly from the veterans community. We have 50 veterans and reservists across the 650 MPs that have a military connection. There are some famous ones like Johnny Mercer and Dan Jarvis who have come on this show from both sides of the house. But it reminded me of something, how we share so much as nations between Australia and the UK. And you and I both share something, and that's that operational experience in Afghanistan. I mean, how much do you think, from what you've seen and from the work that you've done and what I've seen, in terms of researching you and looking at your background, how much do you think that we share attitudes towards veterans issues? And do you think that the narrative has changed since the further we've got away from Afghanistan? All of a sudden, Afghanistan has come back in the news cycle. How have you seen that change and evolve in your time?
Yeah, I think that us in Australia, and especially in politics, could definitely learn from you guys. We don't have many former service men and women and veterans in Parliament. On my side of the house, I think we've got 4 in the lower house. In Labor, they've got 1. You know, very small numbers, right? And I look around politics and political parties. You want to see a soldier, you want to see a baker, a hairdresser, a blocky, a concreter. You want to see the full gamut of people that you're supposed to represent. I think we need to be doing better to do that, and we could probably learn from across the ditch to you guys. In regards to Afghanistan, mate, it's been a turbulent time, and no one wanted to see the Taliban take power. No one wanted to see the places where we've fought, been injured, lost friends, had our brothers and sisters die on the battlefield, to see the Taliban take that ground, let alone be sitting in the presidential palace. It was a tough time. It still is for many, but our service and the service of all of our nations did it honourably. We built schools for girls, wells for communities. We fought terrorism there, and We kept the bad people on the run, on the hop, and in the mountains. I know very different location to where you served in Helmand to where I was in Uruzgan. But we suppressed large-scale terrorist attacks around the world because we were fighting there. And so to see it all kind of deteriorate is tough. I've been very clear on a few shows that the Taliban, ISIS, the Haqqani network, these are terrorist organisations. These are not governing bodies. We should not be recognising them as a government. We need to be very clear in our values and our direction of nations that we will not support people and terrorist activity and insurgencies like we're seeing in Afghanistan. My heart goes out to the many families who have lost their loved ones there, and also to our partners who are still stuck there. Our interpreters, our ANA partnerships, our AMP partnerships, NDS, 222, whatever they may be, who are still stuck there and can't get out. And we know what will happen to them. We saw, as soon as we left, we saw a helicopter in the sky hanging someone who was helping coalition forces. This isn't what we want to see. And, I think that there is more to be done, and we should be striving to do so.
No, definitely. As you were speaking then, it just struck me, it could be anyone of my friends talking in the UK. It just really highlights that shared experience between our two nations. And what has been the kind of Australian general population attitude towards the relationship between the veterans community, would you say, from Afghanistan? We had something here. We had an amazing charity called Help for Heroes, and it generated such huge mainstream media attention, and something you all know about as well, the Invictus Games.
Yep.
How that generated and shifted attitudes. And I love the way that sport changes attitudes in terms of what people can achieve and how it changes attitudes towards disabilities, and the Invictus Games being a huge shining light of that. How have you seen the attitudes of the Australian public around all of those kind of campaigns perhaps change or be maintained over time?
The Australian public have been very supportive of veterans, our ADF, for longer than I've been alive, mate. They're really good supporters. And in Townsville, we're the largest garrison city in the nation, the largest military base, the largest cohort of veterans. So this is a military town, and there is a lot of support and love there for us, and it's reciprocated. Invictus Games was awesome. I was at the inaugural one in 2014. Got to drink beers and smoke a cigar with Prince Harry, or Harry. I don't know if you're taking the Prince away. I'm not sure.
No,
he's a good dude. Yeah, he's solid, man. And I drank beers with the Foo Fighters at the American Ambassador's residence,
wow.
and that's the cool fun side. But then on the real side, I looked around and met Mickey Yule, who lost both of his legs, and I think he just got silver at the Paralympics. He's in powerlifting, and I was powerlifting there. Rocked up. We didn't even have a coach. We didn't have anything. The Ben Richards was the coach there. They pulled me in, so I was training with the UK team, and I've made lifelong friends because of it. And the strength through sport changed how I kind of saw myself as a veteran through my injuries and the others. And the what was really kind of hammered home is we're not defined by our injuries. We're defined by our actions. So, there's good people and bad people in any walks of life. And if you're a dick, you probably were a dick before you joined the military, and you're probably going to be a dick after. But in the meeting all the people from not just the UK, but Georgia, from the States, from Canada, who have complex injuries just like our country. I saw us in them, more larger scale with you, much larger scale. But we learnt from each other, and we took those learnings back home. And we have, we call them ex-service organisations. So you have probably a few pockets of smaller ones, and then your big one, which is Help for Heroes, right? Help for Heroes.
Yeah, they're one of the big charities here.
Yeah,
in the UK.
They're the big ones. We have that, but we have more, all nearly on the same kind of level, and we have a lot. And it is good, and they do provide lots of support for people through sport, taking them away, supporting the families, because we know the families are the backbone, and sometimes suffer in silence too.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, that shared experience, and it's great to hear about the Invictus Games as well, because it's been such a huge movement for change and inspired not just the military community, but the civilian communities as well that you represent and that we're all part of as well. Because it's been absolutely phenomenal. And in terms of some of the contributions that you'd have seen from that veterans community post service, because yes, we all then eventually become civilians. Particularly in your constituency work, I guess, in being in a military town like Townsville, I guess you have a lot of constituents that are ex-military. What kind of contributions have you seen them play in your patch, in your hometown towards society? It could be the third sector, public sector. What's kind of been your experience of those transfer of skills, values, and behaviours that you've seen?
Mate, I see a lot of our veterans who transition out go straight into a lot of community volunteering, helping people, and that's what we like to see. We'll see people that will move into corporate, defence industry, or any normal job. And when I mean normal job, I mean non-bureaucratic or non kind of defence industry. So just back into society, but they all just go straight into that helping community and the big sense of community, whether it's coaching a local footy club or out there doing something for free, just because they want to help people. And I think the military kind of instills that. And when I speak to people like employers, they're like, the best thing about military people, they're on time. They don't make the excuses or any excuses. They contribute well, they work hard, and they'll stay late. And I know that tomorrow morning they're going to be here bright and early. And I know on Saturday, if I need them for Saturday work, they'll be here. If I need them to do something that's a little bit outside their purview, they'll do it, because we just get on, right? You just suck it up. There's, no one's going to die today. We're going to go out and just, do our job, live our life. And majority of people want to spend that extra time with family now and settle down a bit, have the family, or at least be able to go watch a footy game with your kids, or that kind of stuff, mate.
Absolutely. And all those things, as you were talking there, I just thought, God, there's such brilliant skills for politics as well. And you are a walking, talking example of that. And when you're talking about the representation of the veterans community and other elements of society and politics and how important that is, I'm passionate that the only way, as I term it, is to get veterans to stand up and serve again are by telling stories like yours. There'll be people here listening now in the UK who there'll be their moment listening to this going, do you know what? It's my time. This guy's story, I can really identify with it. And I really hope that in Australia, if you are listening to this now, that it inspires you to stand up and serve again. And I love that transition as well into the voluntary sector that you just described.
Oh, definitely, mate. I was a private soldier. I say it like that, not to play down a private soldier, but when you think of politics, you're like, oh, there'll be a general in there somewhere, and there'll be some head of capability, or we'll see a digger, a soldier, the person who you look around, you're not supposed to be in politics. And, sometimes you can feel a bit like an imposter being there, but that's kind of a little bit of motivation for me to go kick some more people in the shins, because you want to be advocating and fighting our jobs to represent our people, our patch, including all veterans around the country. We get calls from everywhere, not just in Townsville or my electorate of Herbert. We get calls from everywhere, and I want to help them all. And I want people to get in politics, because we should be there. It is for us. It's not for the higher echelon people. It's not for the generals. I'm sure there'll be a general there somewhere, but it's not made for them. It's made for the House of Representatives. Is about people who represent the people, and we need normal people in there. Like, I got tattoos down my arm, right? You don't see that in politics. That apparently it's scary to look like this. Garbage, mate. Like, that we need to change how we do business in politics, not just here but around the world, and stop the $5,000 suit wearing people thinking that they're representing everyone. We need normal people in there who make normal decisions based on the people they represent.
Oh, that's so inspirational to hear, mate. And I mean that in all sincerity, because I completely relate to that. I'm, our version of a digger. I was an infanteer, and now just a senior non-commissioned officer, but I've proven I've worked for secretaries of state, running their campaigns. So if I can do it, other people like us can do it too. And that's why we
100%.
need to be so vocal about this. So I really appreciate this opportunity for us to really try and evangelize around that, because that's how we're going to get better politics, is by better people, and then you'll get better decision makers too.
Definitely, mate. With politics, I'm sure that you can relate over there as well. Democracy, politics is pure. It's pure. Sometimes the problem is the people in it. And the only way we get good people in them is to take that step and go, all right, this is what I want to get involved, because I want to be a part of the change. And I did it. And you lose bark on the way. Like, geez, in Afghanistan, you're used to what combat, and what's going to be like. Politics, they'll try and cut your throat very quickly. And but we're built for this, and we're built to push back, and we're built to also remind them that there's accountability for what you say when you speak, and how people act, especially whether it's in the house or in the media. We keep them accountable. We don't we check bad behaviour, and we expect it to be done to us as well.
Oh yeah, well, I'm not going to disagree. But with all that passion and with all that approach, have you got a specific mission that you want to achieve? And if so, how people are reacting to that, and how are you going to measure that, and in terms of how you've achieved that mission going forward when you look back?
I kind of focus more around how I would represent and serve the people here in Townsville. So it's not so much a certain segment or a certain group. It's everyone. I'm the member for everyone. And I want to, see cranes in the sky in Townsville and a future for our kids here. I've got 2 young daughters, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I want them to grow up here and have the opportunity to find a job here, to go to uni if they want, get a trade if they want, but have that opportunity. And I think that's measurable in what rolls out through projects, or how we deliver it, how we work collaboratively together. I don't sit here and close my eyes and go, I hope one day the Prime Minister calls me and gives me a promotion. I don't care. Couldn't care less. That's not my job. I didn't get into politics to climb some very slippery ladder. I got into politics to represent normal people and be their voice. And we have this saying, and a lot of people say it in politics, you want to be your voice in Canberra, so our capital, where Parliament House is. So I want to be Townsville's voice in Canberra, not Canberra's voice in Townsville. So I don't toe party lines. I'm in a party, but I don't toe the line. If we're not going the direction that I think we should be going, then I'll let them know. I'll kick him in the shin a bit, and then help refocus to better represent our people. I get along really well with the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison. We share a pretty emotional story. He came up here just before the election. It was the day after Anzac Day. And on Anzac Day, a friend of mine died by suicide. And I got a call the next day. I was standing there with the Prime Minister, a whole press pack. So a bunch of journalists going into an election. There's like 10 journalists there, 10 cameras, very pointy questions. And I told the PM what just happened, and he said, mate, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. I made the decision to go ahead with the press conference, even though I've never done one before. This was during a campaign. And because I wanted to do my best to get elected so I can better represent and support people, so I don't have to bury any more of my mates. We walked out there. I was like a deer in headlights, because I don't care about them. I don't care about the question they're asking. I couldn't care less if someone said, oh, you bombed that interview, you stuffed that up. I don't care what people, how people think like that about me. I was just thinking about the family, what we need to do, what I need to do with the battalion, how do we get the support wrapped around, all this kind of stuff. And the PM just leant over and put his arm around me. And, Prime Ministers don't do this. We didn't talk about it. We didn't tell them. We didn't make it a political thing. And he just looked at me and gave me the smile and goes, I really like this guy. And then from there, if I text or call, he answers. His wife has called my wife, and I have this kind of special relationship with him that kind of leaves that door open where I can just have those honest conversations.
Wow. Oh, cheers for sharing that, mate. That's what a story. And I'm sure that it certainly touched me and will many of our listeners. And the other thing that really struck me then when you're talking about your daughters, I'm a fairly new dad, with my daughter being in terms of age between your two, so a little girl. And I was talking to Greer Martin over in the States, another veteran in politics, and he was talking about how his daughter fired him up to actually get involved in politics. You know, I think she was born 6 days before he left for Afghanistan. So it really fired on his return. He wanted a better world for her. And there seems to be a bit of a common thread with many of us in the veterans community, how family, those values really fire us up to want to change the world. And certainly that commonality is really strange, and that commonality between veterans around that very nation.
Did you carry ECM? Because everyone I'm speaking to carry ECM. You're having girls, mate. You know, we better be talking to Veterans Affairs, I reckon, because everyone who's been around ECM has been they have little girls.
So for those who don't know, ECM stands for Electronic Countermeasures, which are the bits that keep us safe on operational theatres. I mean, first time I carried that was in Northern Ireland as an 18-year-old. And certainly the weight and the effect of that stuff perhaps might have driven a sudden surge of female babies across the veterans community. I don't know. There's a study in that somewhere, perhaps. But what would you say? Looking back at that, how would you like your family and your brothers and sisters from the veterans community to remember you, or even your political colleagues? 'Cause that might even be different in terms of how your impact that you've made on the world.
Well, I think it's different if I think about my immediate family. My family, my daughters, they have to sacrifice a lot of family time for work, but it's always when Dad's home, it's as much as I can phone away and loving Dad and playing games and hide and seek and all the good stuff, teething babies and the fun things, right, that we go through. I want my political colleagues, and I think they do know me, as I'm not the funny guy. I like to have a laugh and always good to have a beer with, but I'm there to fight for my people, and I'm not there to make friends. I've got enough. I'm there to do a job and to keep government that I'm in to account on our promises and what we should be doing to better help and serve the people of Australia and the veteran community. I think veterans know that about me, and I have people come in my office who are members of the Labor Party who served, and people that vote completely different to how I see the world, and sometimes it perplexes me. But I'm their representative. For 3 years, I represent them. So they come in here with a problem, I'll help them. I never push them away, and I try my best to take any issue, any problem from any political persuaded person and to support them and back them in. And I'm known in Canberra for I like a good fight down there, mate. So I like to take up the fight for our people here. And I've been told by my side of politics from down south, I talk to your people, build your base with them, and if they're not your way inclined, give them a bit of time. But I'm like, no, everyone gets the same, mate. We're all here together trying to do our best, and we should be representing everyone equally. Not one gets treated better than another, or one can come see me and gets my time. Like I don't care about that stuff. I'm not born into the political parties. I wasn't born into it. I kind of fell into it. So I don't bring that very kind of centric view. I kind of think that everyone's the same, man. We're all trying to do our bit and better our families and better the community.
Phil, I'm going to leave that there, because those words are really awesome to close on. But Phil Thompson MP, thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Job Oppo are pleased to be working with the Veterans in Politics podcast series to help us in our quest to change the narrative around veteran employment. Thanks to the Veterans in Politics team for giving Job Oppo the chance to be involved in this fantastic initiative. Together, we hope to help many veterans realise their potential and secure the job, not just a job.
Thanks to our guests and thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast, hit subscribe now. Alternatively, you can support our mission by checking out in the show notes below where you can rate, donate, or become our mate. Thank you.